We'll be right back after this brief intermission.
Okay, so maybe you didn't finish or broke your New Year's resolution to get to the gym or start that project you had kept on the back burner since, well, okay, the dawn of time. I get it. That's okay. But you know, there's one thing you can do to get back that inspiration, that can-do spirit. Perhaps you or someone you know has a vehicle that they don't drive anymore. Why not consider donating it to the National Federation of the Blind? All you have to do is call 866-282-7327. That's 866-282-7327. You can also log online to nfb.org and click donate. And maybe you know someone that's blind. You can reach out to NFB at nfb.org. That's NFB at nfb.org. So what do you have to lose? You have everything to gain by helping someone in need, like your motivation. Oh, and a tax deduction. So why not get started today? And remember, charity is only a phone call away.
Welcome back. You're listening to The Secrets of Success. I'm your host, Bill Horan, and today we're speaking with Martin Lanik, author of The Leader Habit. Martin, in your book, you say the key question is not who has the ability to be a great leader, but what is the best way to develop great leaders? Now, I'm sure that surprises a lot of people because, at least for myself, I always thought there was always that person who kind of stood out in a group and you knew they were the leader. They were going to be elected the manager, the head, the president, the whatever the leadership position would be because they just seemed to take control. So can you talk about that?
Sure. And you know, the question I would pose to you is, how did that person that you see and with leadership potential, how did that person get that way? Were they born, or is it something that they acquired, either through deliberate practice or through their life experiences?
I have the feeling I would get the wrong answer, but I probably would have said they were born, they were born a champion, they were born a leader, and I have a feeling that's going to get a big X on my paper, right?
Well, and I think it's a good thing because research actually shows that only 30% are genetic factors when it comes to leadership. So the other 70% is learned. And I find this super exciting because what that tells us that anyone can really become a good leader. If you put in the work, you will get better at leadership skills and you can be the leader you've always wanted to be. So I think it's very exciting.
I honestly think it is, too, because, again, most of us, at least as I came through life, I kind of had that feeling the person was born that way or they were given all the benefits, etc. But having an expert like yourself telling us that we can develop leadership through habits, now that puts us in a whole new class. It's like, yeah, maybe I can still be a major leaguer. Maybe I can still play a pro sport, or at least on a much higher level than I'm playing, because I know some of the secrets. And in this case, the secret is reading your book, The Leader Habit. Now, in the book, you say that, and I'm going to ask you what you mean when you say that every skill starts with a weakness, every leadership skill. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, so when you look at any one of the 22 core leadership skills that we identify, so in the beginning, whether it's when a person is born or when they're starting to work, that skill is not developed. That behavior doesn't exist. It's a weakness. And through practice, whether it's deliberate practice, like picking up the book and finding one specific 5-minute exercise and just perfecting that skill and practicing it every day, you move it from weakness to proficiency, from mastery, and if you continue beyond mastery and you practice more and more and more, it eventually becomes automatic and it becomes your habit. So any skill, and I would say this is true of any behavior that we are doing today, that behavior didn't exist at some point. It was our weakness.
So in a way, just the fact that we have a weakness, that's not going to put us on the rust pile or keep us from being a leader, so long as we recognize it and do something about it. Is that kind of what I'm hearing?
That's exactly it. Yes. So identify, know what your weaknesses are, identify the skills where you really have room to grow, pick the right exercise, and start doing it today.
You just made a lot of parents very happy,
Yes, that's really the key behind this book and this new process.
Now, Martin, where does this fit in, though, with, the typical person who's going to school for leadership, maybe even taking a course that they go into a new job and they're an intern for a while and they go into a training program? Where does bookwork and classwork fit in with what you're saying?
Yes, so bookwork, classwork, that is all important because it gives us knowledge, and that knowledge is obviously useful. But to be a leader, it's not enough to know. You also need to be able to do, and that's where the leader habit comes into play. So classwork generally gives us knowledge, but you also need to be able to practice. I often use the example of music education. I think they nailed it in music education, where you have music theory, music history, appreciation. Those are all classes. That's your classwork, bookwork. And that gives you knowledge of how to read music. It gives you knowledge of music history. But then you also have dedicated time for practicing the piano or violin or whatever you're playing. And that's really the part that has been missing in leadership development so far. And that's the hole that my new book, The Leader Habit, is filling.
I think that's a great analogy, and it really puts us in the right scene. Martin, I'd like our audience once again to know, because people often tune in and out to a show or just catch a part of it. Our guest today is Martin Lanik, Lanik. His book is The Leader Habit. And Martin, can you tell us again where it's available and the website?
If you'd like to find out more, you can go to leaderhabit.com, and the book is available for purchase at Amazon or any other bookseller.
And again, for our audience, if you haven't heard the whole entire show, Martin's been telling us that leader habits can easily be developed. You don't have to be born a leader. You don't have to be part of the most expensive colleges or schools or lifestyle. Just following his habits, his rules that he's going to be giving you, you can move up that chain very quickly. And apparently, every survey we're seeing, and it's not just in Martin's book, the leadership of companies and organizations is rated so poorly that there's a lot of room to move up. And if you're a good leader, you're going to be seen very quickly, recognized, and moving up that corporate ladder. Now, Martin, did I understand, this seemed too good to be true, that your approach can be developed with people in as little as 5 minutes a day?
Yes, it is true. I know it might seem that more is often better. It's a common fallacy that we see not only in leadership development, but any education.
Now,
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, take us, when you say just 5 minutes, is it practicing a certain habit each day for 5 minutes? Because that just sounds too good to be true, something we'd find on late night TV.
Yes, absolutely. So this is really the key behind success, is not to overdo it. And what I always recommend is pick one skill and even break down that skill into individual behaviors. And that's what we did through observing 800 managers and executives from around the world. We looked at them under the microscope to understand the tiniest micro behaviors that they do that make them effective. How do they prioritize? How do they delegate? And then we built these very simple 5-minute exercises that each targets that one micro behavior. And the idea is that you practice that one micro behavior. On average, it takes about 66 days. So you practice that one micro behavior over and over again for the 2 months until it becomes automatic. So that's why really the best way to develop leadership skills is in minutes a day. Because when you break it down to just 5 minutes, that's something that's enough time that anybody has. And no matter how busy their lives are, they can find those 5 minutes. But the best part is that this approach prevents you from procrastinating and from not doing it. So more is often, or less is often more, at least when it comes to practice.
Now, even though this sounds too good to be true, Martin, you do this with the major companies in the world. This is what you do. You're a consultant. You're out there training leaders, so it works. Am I correct?
It does work, and we have the research evidence behind this.
And these companies obviously wouldn't be trying this if they, one, was satisfied with what they have now, and if it didn't work, they wouldn't be working with you too long. Can you give us an example? Let's say you walk into a company, just what it would be like day one and how you work, giving the potential leaders and future leaders this 5 minutes a day training.
Yeah, so we start always with an assessment, and we run simulation-based assessment. So actually, we place the leader or executive into a fictitious company, and then for half a day, we have them work in this fictitious company. And when I say fictitious company, so think of it a very elaborate Harvard business case study come to life. So we actually have live actors that we're hiring that are role-playing different difficult leadership scenarios. And then psychologists are observing and coding every single behavior. So they're coding those habits so that we know what habits the leader already has and what habits they need to adopt. And then from there, we now have actually a software application for this that is able to scale this across the organization. And then the software application puts together a development plan. So it pre-selects the different exercises that are going to be specifically helping this leader become more effective. And every day, through a phone app, we are feeding those exercises to them and then tracking their progress on a daily basis as they're actually completing these exercises. So that is generally how we work with organizations who are implementing this process.
And can companies do this on their own if without bringing you in, either from the book or from your computer program?
Yes, through the book, and then, of course, through our computer program as well. But the book, the thinking behind the book is that we wanted to share the wealth that the knowledge that we accumulated over the past decade, and then share it with individuals and organizations so they can run these programs on their own as well.
Martin, you've really given us something to think about, and I think to all the parents where they've had a teacher or a coach say your son, your daughter is not a leader, this is a way to get them back. Get hold of the book, The Leader Habit, by our guest, Martin Lanik. Take a few maybe hours to read it, go through it, and see if you can develop some of these habits. If the major companies are doing them, it must be working. Martin, before we wrap up, once again, please give us the website and where we can get your book.
Yes, the book is available on Amazon or any other bookseller, and you can learn more at leaderhabit.com. We do have a free personality test available there, so if you like to learn more about your own personality and help us determine what are some of the leadership skills where you could start your development, you might find it very useful. Again, it's leaderhabit.com.
And our guest, of course, is Martin Lanik, Lanik, author of The Leader Habit. Martin, thanks so much for being with us today. We'd like to remind our audience that you've been listening to The Secrets of Success on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. I'm your host, Bill Horan, asking you to please join us again next week at this same time when we will continue our journey to success.